Hi. This video is to explore a bit of the topic of the journey of the 6 profile, and specifically the 6-3 profile, as I am a 6-3 emotional manifester. And in coming into one of the Facebook groups, the 6-Line Human Design Facebook group, I had been searching on the journey and process of coming onto the roof, and naturally seeing the differences of different 6 profiles, specifically the 6-3 to many of the other types of 6 profiles, and what is the dynamic and the energy and just the simple process of coming onto the roof. What does it really look like? Naturally, just having turned 30, I've been feeling this roof process for a bit of time now and really experiencing the depth of the peace that resides here for the time in which it's there until the 3 emerges again. But ultimately I was in a process of my own contemplation, and then through the readings that I came to, which were shared in this group in regards to some statements from Ra, I felt it would be quite valuable to share some of these perspectives here and also in the 6-3 group, specifically because I feel like there can be a lot of confusion and difficulty for the 6-line profile. And one of the statements in which I read from Ra was basically along the lines that the 6-3 cannot be trusted when they're in their 0 to 30 year process, in the sense that because they are going through so much trial and error and they experience so much pessimism from those various failures and errors and mistakes that arise, naturally the 6-3 cannot be trusted in what they have to guide or share in a certain sense because of the filter in which they're sharing from. And then when we come into the roof phase, where a bit of optimism emerges through the healing and through the rest, naturally that optimism brings balance to the pessimism of the 6-3 profile and all of those trials and errors that occurred within those initial 30 years. And through that, the balancing brings a certain objectivity, and that objectivity is of course what's ripe and ready to guide and share and teach in whatever form that looks like to those that naturally come to a 6 who is on the roof. And in my own journey, I felt this was quite interesting, especially over the past few years. I've been sharing on social media my journey of healing and guiding and teaching for almost 12 years now, from early days in personal development and fitness and nutrition and martial arts, and then merging into traditional forms of personal development and belief structure changing, emotional healing, and then exploring into spirituality and awakening and alignment with the true nature. Throughout the entirety of that process, especially because most of this happened throughout the 0 to 30 phase, I could certainly observe the nature of the statement, do not trust a 6-3 in what they're sharing. Mainly due to the fact that, yes, there is that filter of pessimism that many times comes forth in the sharing, in the writing. And for anyone who does writing or does videos or anything, it becomes quite an art in exploring the dynamics and nature and the nuances to how things are expressed and how we are making sure we are bringing back our projections and we are sharing from more and more an objective space or not an emotional space. And in human design terms, just coming back to authority and sharing from a place of true authority. This is quite valuable because then not only are we going to bring more of an impact with what we're sharing, we are also going to not be projecting and filtering messages that can be quite confusing for others that are sincerely and innocently looking to learn. And so, in the initial years, there was much pessimism and there was much projection in certainty, because I also have a completely open ajna, which brought so much certainty to new things that I had learned or what have you. And of course, sometimes these messages not necessarily coming from true authority, which creates quite a mess in what is being taught or shared or guided upon. But certainly over the past 3 to 4 years, as coming into the roof, and coming into more of the optimism, and not only the optimism of being a 6, but the peace of being a manifester, the balance in which has continued to emerge has really brought a balancing to the polarity of the pessimism that can act as a filter in what is being shared or guided, and truly bringing that objectivity, which what I've noticed has been much more impactful naturally in those that I've guided, those I've interacted with over the years. and it can be felt deeply in reading, in exploring it, not only from myself in writing it, but those who receive that. And the funny thing is many times over the course of these past 3 to 4 years, the initial run at the messaging or the sharing or the writing would come across as somewhat pessimistic, or there would be some judgment arising in the observation of how others are doing things, because the six, of course, is many times just simply perched and watching, observing others in the sense of what they're exploring, what they're doing, and it can become quite the ride in that observation as we observe others go about their business in ways that we may know is aligned or not aligned, or incorrect or correct or what have you, without placing a judgment on that, but rather coming to that objectivity. This is where we can truly embody the sixth energy as the role model, as the guide, even if we're just on the roof, let alone coming down the roof, from the roof, and embodying that in its fullest. So there is obviously an importance in coming to a balance in the writings. And so, as I was mentioning, the initial run at the writings would generally come across in some form, even more recently, just even the most subtle of ways, with a certain pessimism or filter based on my own experiences, that I would generally take some time to just rest with it, being an emotional authority, let it settle, and come back to that writing piece to in a sense, rewrite it, or make the subtle shifts and changes in the wording and how it's explored and how it's shared, so that there can be a balancing with the optimism, so that there is truly an objective placement in how this will ultimately be shared through, in this case, social media or what have you. So I'm giving some very specific examples here, but I hope they're practical and useful, because when I read this recently and I've explored this, and I've been exploring it and just experiencing it directly as I've come onto the roof and continue to deepen into that, I felt it'd be quite valuable, especially for the 6-3s who, as I mentioned, initial years are not to be trusted, and then those 20 years on the roof can be trusted now because of that objectivity. And of course, the 3 will always play itself out, and I can see this more often than not, emerging to bring myself back off the roof into the world, to experience into the engagement and the closeness within reality, if we can put it that way. So this may apply differently for other 6s, but I do feel the message is still applicable, in the sense that as we come onto the roof as a 6, there can really truly be that objectivity and detachment from what it is that we are guiding or sharing upon, especially if we are in the space of doing this through social media or whatever other mediums that are available. So this is my message in regards to the 6 nature, and I'm sure I'll have much more to share as I have over the years, as this deepens, but this was the most relevant message I felt called to put out in this moment, and blessings to all of you on your journey.